Webinarımıza başlıyoruz. Önce insan diyoruz, her şey insan için diyoruz. Ve bugün dahili hava kalitesini ve dahili çevre, onları görüşeceğiz. Yani insan nasıl etkileniyor? İnsana neler oluyor bu içeride geçirdiğimiz, bilhassa bu Covid-19 sonrası içeride geçirdiğimiz zaman içerisinde neler oluyor? Neler alıp veriyoruz bulunduğumuz ortamda, bu interior environment'ta? Evet. Welcome to our webinar today. A webinar organized by DEİK, Turkey Finland Business Council. We have a wonderful sort of team of speakers here from Europe, from America, and our ensemble is on the Asian side of Istanbul. So we are coming from 3 continents today. So perhaps before mentioning any more words, let's start with our ensemble. Yani isterseniz hemen başlayalım diyordum ama Ufukçum bir ayarlama yapıyor herhalde. Güzel bir müzikle başlayalım. Let's start with some nice musical tunes, and let's open the gates of our hearts and start connecting, reaching out to all of us, all around the world. Thank you. Emrullah'cığım, evet, sıra sizde. Başlayalım lütfen.
Evet, küçük bir şey.
Thank you so much. As always, lovely tune. What we've got to have some more. Biraz daha olması lazım. Bu yeterli değil. Haydi devam edelim. Let's continue. Thank you very much. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Ama daha vaktimiz var. Ne demişti Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi? Aşk göğsümde bir ateş yaktı. Şimdi tüm yapmak ve duymak istediklerim şiirler, müzik ve bilge sözler. Love lit a fire in my chest, said Rumi. All I want to do and hear now, books, music, and wise words. So we're going to listen to the wise words from the experience of our speakers and from what they've learned from books, from their research. And let's continue hearing some lovely music, some beautiful music. Emrullah'cığım devam edelim. Let's continue and let it be. Bırakalım akışına. Neler çıkacak bakalım müzisyenlerimizden. Let's see what's going to come out of our musicians. Evet, tebrik ediyoruz, tebrik ediyoruz. Kıymetli müzisyen kardeşlerim, her zamanki gibi harikasınız. Ya bugünkü konumuz biliyorsunuz havayla ilgili, dahili havayla ilgili, çevreyle ilgili. Our subject today, it reminds me of a poem from Hafez. Our subject tonight is love, and tomorrow it will love too. All our lives it will be love, he says. But anyway, our subject today is impacts of indoor environment and air quality on human health and performance. And of course, we're talking about breathing in, breathing out. And Emrul Hacım, you'll remember sabah rüzgarı. You remember we had that's this tune, morning wind. Sabah rüzgarı vardı. Onu performansımıza dahil edebilir miyiz? Yoksa rüzgarla ilgili bir şiir okuyacağım şimdi. Biliyorsun saçar o taze kokusunu sabah rüzgarı diye Mevlana başlar. Siz ona uygun bir şey çalın isterseniz. Ben de şöyle birkaç
İsterseniz
kendi tınımla bir şeyler söyleyeyim. Evet, bir şeyler duyamadım.
taksim yapalım isterseniz. Üstüne şiir okuyun.
Bir taksim yapın bakalım ya. Bir değil belki birkaç şiir okuruz. Taksime bağlı o.
Tabii.
Yes, we are talking about air quality, indoor environment, and how important that breathing is. How important that breathing is. In fact, one Sufi, a wise man, he said, you enjoy the essence of love, and then you get the essence of love. When you breathe in, you get all that essence of life and living. And when you breathe out, you start enjoying life. So it's not just breathing in, but also breathing out. And the Creator has given us this. And then we add so many beauties to our life. Art pieces, paintings, sculptures, nature itself, landscape, and of course, music. Haydi başlayalım. Haydi başlayalım Emrullah'cığım. Buyurun. Evet, kıymetli kardeşim. Yurdal Topçan'ı anıyorum. Onun bestesi. Yakın bir zamanda yine kıymetli sazenden kardeşim Göksel Baktagir'i de dinlemiştik biliyorsunuz. Ondan da bir beste gelir tahmin ediyorum. The morning wind spreads its fresh smell. We must get up and take that in. That wind that lets us breathe and live. Before, on, breathe, what it says. Breathe before it's gone. Make use of it at that very moment. Kaçar o taze kokusunu sabah rüzgarı. Atmalı ve çekmeliyiz içimize. Bizleri yaşatan rüzgarı. Solumalıyız onu yok olmadan önce. Ve devam ediyor. Rakset kırılıp açıldığında, rakset sargıyı söküp attıysan, rakset kavganın ortasında, rakset kanında, rakset tamamen özgür olduğunda. Breathe in, says Jimmy. And then he continues. Dance when you're broken open. Dance if you have torn your bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you're perfectly free. Çok teşekkürler. Yalnız bu Zoom'un özelliği tahmin ediyorum daha da ilerleyecek, biraz daha geliştirilecek. Siz müzik yaparken benim sesim ön plana çıkınca sanki müzik kesiliyor gibi oldu. I felt like due to the characteristics of Zoom, while there's music going on, that lovely music, when I start reciting a few words from film couplets from Rumi, it appeared like music kind of cut off. I hope they will fix this. Let's call it a small issue with Zoom. Bu geçici problemi çözerler. Belki de öyle olmuyor. Belki de bana öyle geldi. Bilemiyorum. Kusurumuza bakmayın lütfen. Elimizdeki tüm imkanlarla işte yeni normalde normal şartları bulmaya çalışıyoruz. Evet. Arkadaşlar sadece 5 dakikamız kaldı. Ondan sonra biz açılışa geçeceğiz. Ama lütfen siz gitmeyin, orada kalın. Biliyorsunuz duruma göre tekrardan sizden şöyle bir dokunuş daha sazlarınıza isteyebilirim, rica edebilirim. Oldu mu? Emrullah'cığım başlamadan önce şu konseri şu an için sonlandırırken ne çalalım?
Özdeyiş diyelim.
Hadi özdeyiş diyelim. Şöyle cello'yla mı giriş yapacaksınız? Neyle mi yapacaksınız artık? Nasıl arzu ederseniz buyurun. Yearning, longing. Ha? Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Sağ olun, var olun. Canında bir can var, o canı ara. Beden dağında bir maden var, o madeni ara. Ey yürüyüp giden dost, bütün gücünle ara. Aradığını dışarıda değil, kendi içinde ara. İşte o yüzden bugün çok önemli. Çünkü içerideki havadan bahsedeceğiz. Evimizin, ofislerimizin, okullarımızın ve sağlıkla ilgili konularda sağlık evlerimizin, hastanelerimizin içindeki, ama Allah eksik de etmesin, düşürmesin de derler biliyorsunuz. Dolayısıyla şu anda sağlık için ön cephede çalışan o kahramanlara her zaman duacı olduk, duacıyız. Allah güç kuvvet versin onlara ve bir an önce rahatsız olanları da sağlıklarına kavuştursun. There is a soul within your soul. Seek that soul. There is a mind within your body. Search for that mind. Oh, the walking, my friend. Search with all your vigor. With all your vigor. Search for whatever you're seeking within yourself. Another piece from Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi. Again, search inside, he's saying. That's why today's webinar, I think, is very important, because we're talking about inside. We're talking about indoor environment, indoor air quality, and impacts of that indoor environment quality, air quality on all of us, in our homes, in our offices, in the hospitals. May the Creator give all that health to those who are actually suffering in the hospitals because of COVID-19 or maybe other illnesses. Let them be at ease very soon with all their health. And I want to thank again to all those involved in making us feel better in the health sector, the doctors and paramedics and everybody. Our prayers have been with you, and they continue with you. May you have all the strength. We're with you all the time. You are in our hearts and our minds. Efendim, daha fazla sözü uzatmadan, without further ado, I want to leave. We used to say, again, in the normal screen, to a lovely lady who happens to be the vice chairman of this great company, Harton, who are very much involved in heating, ventilation, air conditioning. They are the inside air people, I must say. And Tarja happens to be wife of my dear friend Mika Haltonen. And I really am delighted that Tarja is here, Tarja Taki Haltonen. Tarja, without further ado, the screen is yours, and the whole webinar is yours right now. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Halil. It's I just have to say that I don't know if I've ever been speaking in such a lovely webinar that you are providing today, with the live music by a wonderful quartet, Turkish quartet, and also live poetry by you, Halil. So thank you so much. It's kind of I feel it's so important to remember what's really special in life. We are of course busy with our business and everything, but your wise words kind of made at least me think that sometimes it's good to kind of maybe calm down a bit and think what is important in life. And probably during this spring here in Europe, we have had this possibility to calm down a bit and think, because of the COVID, and we have been working remotely and maybe spending more time with the family. But I just wanted to share my screen quickly. I don't wanna talk too much about the company, but I still thought that maybe it's good to say something about Halton and especially about indoor environment and human well-being. We have dedicated our lives and our family company to this mission of enabling human well-being, especially in the demanding indoor environments. It's like, you know, hospitals or cruise ships or commercial kitchens and restaurants. But nowadays also of the office premises, where really ventilation is very important, also in helping with or minimizing the risk of the COVID, possible COVID disease. And ventilation, air distribution has a big role with the small aerosols that may carry this virus, like other viruses and bacteria as well. So I'm the vice chair. I'm by education. I'm HVAC. I have master's degree in HVAC, and I have been working in this family company for quite a long time. Have left some time, but now I'm back, and this is really my passion, like it is my husband's Mika's passion as well. So Halton's mission really is about indoor environments, and as you know, 90% of our time we spend inside, and we all need a lot of air to breathe per day and all the time. So what Halil mentioned, this breathe in, breathe out, is of course what indoor air quality is. That indoor quality really affects a lot. So we have decided that it's not only indoor air quality, it's a whole indoor environment, including the sound, the lighting, the temperature, of course, and you know, thermal comfort. And what we want to do is to provide with the users of the buildings, or to the users of the buildings, we want to provide these safe and comfortable, productive indoor environments. And more, of course, sustainability is really critical subject and topic, and we try to do everything in a sustainable way, with sustainable principles, and try to improve the indoor environment and simultaneously not make the outdoor environment worse. And that's a big task and challenge, of course, that we have. And as construction is very divided and very you know, it's in hands of so many players. What we try to do is to be involved in the whole project from the really beginning of where the customer needs are taken into account, all the way to the implementation and even the use of the building. As you know, we cannot affect the outdoor climate. Well, of course, you know, as a global community, we have to affect the outdoor climate, but as Halton, we don't have that much that many tools to affect the outdoor climate. But as far as the indoor climate is concerned, we can really make a difference and enhance human well-being and productivity inside the buildings. As a family company, we are pretty widespread all over the world. We actually operate in 37 countries with our own people nowadays, and have own production units in 9 different countries, in Europe, in Americas, in both North and South America, and also in Asia. In Asia, we have been for a long time. In Malaysia, over 20 years already. And so we kind of try to affect the indoor climate, indoor environment all over the world. We are headquartered in Finland. This is a Finnish company. And we have so-called regional headquarters also in the US and Malaysia. Innovation and R&D have been the kind of the main reason why we have succeeded. We have always tried to emphasize the science behind our offering and science behind the indoor environmental quality. And so we have these innovation hubs already in 8 countries around the world. We also do some licensed manufacturing in 4 countries. The turnover last year was 238 million euros, and we have 1,600 people in the world, mostly in Europe and of course Finland. And then the last slide I have here is I just wanted to show you the kind of what we did last year when we turned 50. We actually made a book about the stories about Halton, and we wanted to be very, very honest with how we have, what kind of mistakes we have made along the road. And yes, Halil is having it there, and that's Mika. That's my husband, the son of the founder, who is on the cover, and so he plays rock and roll quite a bit, and when he doesn't have rock and roll gigs, he's leading the company. So if you want to read the book, you can find it in halton.com site. Oh yes, I have few pictures of some of the references where we have you know, the buildings that have our technology, and where we have tried to help with especially with the indoor climate in these buildings. So that's about it.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. In fact, you know, this book, Breathe In, is a great book, and I was so delighted. I was honored actually to be invited to your 50th anniversary, and you have a wonderful director here who is also a member of our board, the Turkey Film Business Council board, Mr. Onur Çakır. So he passed the invitations to me, and I was so happy to get this book and all the photos and everything, and that great events and the rock concert by Mika, Erepe Orchestra. In fact, we wanted to have a tune from Erepe Orchestra, but somehow we could not figure it out. We tried it, having it kind of air that video on YouTube using Zoom. There's some kind of a problem and issue there as well, but we'll have those links available, and maybe as Turkey Film Business Council, we'll have a social event, and we'll have Erepe Orchestra performing during a Turkey Finland Business Council concert. Okay, is that
Absolutely.
a deal? All right.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll make sure that will happen if I have any power over that.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. You are actually, you know, speaking of power, I'm so happy that our speakers are all ladies today. It shows ladies' power, you know, women's power, and again, I wanted to share this. It also is a good reflection of the Finnish government, you know, where the ladies are actually leading there. And woman is a ray of God. She's not the earthly beloved. She is creative, not created. This is another piece from Rumi. Kadın hak nurudur, sevgili değil. Sanki yaratıcıdır, yaratılmış değil. İşte bakın, ta 13. yüzyılda bizim Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi'miz ne güzel söylemiş değil mi? It was in the 13th century. Dear Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, our great philosopher, poet, he actually he felt it in his heart, and he said this in his heart and his mind, you know.
Mhm.
That was very good. So I am grateful to you. Thank you very much for that great presentation. And this book tells you all about how to breathe in and how to process that oxygen or whatever you take in, and hopefully the cleanest air, and how to breathe it out, how to exhale it, you know. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Halil. Thank you.
Aycan Bey, are you there?
Yes, Halil Bey.
Okay. Well, I would like you to get involved as well, and because now I'm going to introduce a very special professor, and I'd like you to help me maybe filling in the background of Professor Vivian Loftus. Professor Vivian Loftus, our keynote speaker. Are you there, Vivian?
I'm here.
You're there. I cannot see you, or is that, well, maybe I can see you. There you are. Lovely. Well, I must admit to everyone that Pittsburgh is my hometown in America. I spent altogether my student years, my academic years as an academician and as a researcher in the Robotics Institute of Carnegie Mellon University, all over 14 years. And it's always very kind of touching to my heart when I have a guest from Pittsburgh, from that great educational institution. Vivian, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. And Vivian actually received her degrees from another favorite school that I love a lot, and I spend a lot of time these days in Boston. She received her degrees from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and then she came to Carnegie Mellon. May I say that you were hired by dear Abi, Professor Önarakan, who passed away.
Absolutely.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
And so we immediately had an attachment between, and I had an attachment to Vivian immediately because I loved Abi. He was a wonderful man. Again, may he rest in peace. He added a lot to the educational environment, to the research environment. I was going to get some help from Aycan to introduce you and tell, you know, and share all your superb credentials. I mean, you're a university professor, by the way. In our universities over there, we have assistant professor, associate professor, then full professor, and then when you're really good, you become university professor, okay? So Vivian is one of our university professors. She is a Paul Mellon Chair in Architecture, and she was the head of School of Architecture, and you are now the co-director of Building Performance and Diagnostics, right? Am I right there?
That's
and
correct.
all those FAIA, LEED, AP, CPHC. Anyway, Aycan Bey, would you like to add anything else to the wonderful?
No, thank you, Halil Bey. We can proceed with the professor's presentation.
Okay. As I make the formal approach in Turkey, Professor Vivian Loftus. Screen is yours, Vivian. Please go ahead.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Great.
Yes, I would also like to dedicate this to Ömer Akin. He is not only was one of the leading faculty at Carnegie Mellon in the School of Architecture, he did hire me. So much of my career was launched through his commitment to the area of research that I do. I have packed too much information into a 30-minute talk, so I'm going to speak quickly.
Vivian, may I just interrupt you for
Yes.
one little second?
Yes.
It's already in the, actually, we share this with the participants, but there is the interpretation option in Zoom, as you know. What you have to do, I used exactly the same terminology the last time, you have to select Japanese to listen to Vivian's discussion and presentation in Turkish. So please select Japanese on the interpretation button and click that, and then you will hear everything in Turkish. Thank you, Vivian. Again,
So there's a
a
translator working alongside?
Yes, simultaneous translation. Yes, exactly. So everything you say is being translated into Turkish.
What a difficult job. I have to, especially when I speak fast, right?
I think they're pretty good at that. They'll be okay.
Good, yeah.
Thank you. But as I shared with some of you before, they are the invisible heroes, and our thanks go to our interpreters, our translators as well. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to talk today about indoor environments for health and for productivity. And obviously today, most people are spending their time talking about indoor environments because of COVID. And they're talking about how we have to redesign our indoor environments to reduce the amount of air transfer and surface transfer of microbial viral infections. But there's far more that we have to deal with in terms of indoor environments. And in terms of the quality of the air, thermal qualities, the lighting quality, acoustics, ergonomics, and actually the way in which the buildings hold up over time. It's important, see if I'm frozen here. It's important to actually do a definition of what is human health to remind ourselves of all of the variables that we're responsible for when we design indoor environments or operate indoor environments. And there's a long-standing Cornell definition of indoor health that looks at all the human systems, much of which has been moved into the WELL standard. So if for those of you who have not actually looked at the WELL standard, you can download the standard from the web, but they have basically taken each of the human circulatory system, the respiratory system, the muscular system, and then talked about how we have to design indoor environments for each of those systems. And of course, COVID is addressing some of those systems. It has the most significant impact on the respiratory system, but unfortunately, it seems to be having an impact on many more systems, which is what makes it such a scary time. I'm an educator and a researcher, and I spend a lot of time doing public speaking to the design community and the building management community. So I'm always trying to turn this into prioritized guidelines. What do we have to do in what order? And if you look at human health response indoors, probably the most critical thing we can do indoors is do a better job of delivering fresh air. And beyond that is eliminating toxicity in materials, because indoor air quality is a function of what we bring in or what we have in the building. We have to now start treating water as a design material, because water can bring in toxicity or create Legionella. We're looking at ways to reduce microbes, which COVID is one of the microbial concerns, designing to minimize pests, managing radiant environments, and then treating daylight and sun as a design material, because it actually is a healing, it is a sterilization opportunity, and embracing biophilia. And I'll end with that in the end of the talk. This is the most important thing we have to do, and it's fitting that Halton is the sponsor for this talk, because delivering outside air to the occupants is critical. It means that we have to design our ventilation systems to be effective. And I have to say that as an American who watches American mechanical solutions show up all over the world, variable air volume systems, the whole idea of delivering cooling and breathing air together is a terrible idea. You have to deliver breathing air separate from cooling. And ideally you do water-based cooling, because it's a far more energy efficient and quieter solution. But if you're going to do air-based cooling, do a dual duct system and deliver your breathing air independently. Because less than 10% of the air that we blow around buildings in a VAV system is breathing. 90% of it is just cooling air. It's just recirculated air, and it's just fraught with problems, even if we do ultraviolet and other kinds of filtration. We're going to have to increase the amount of outside air. We really should be using economizers with heat recovery. We should increase it as much as we can. If it's a beautiful day today in Istanbul, we should be increasing the amount of fresh air that we're bringing in, instead of bringing in the same 10% and then trying to heat it and cool it and filter it and dehumidify it. As I said, separating ventilation from thermal conditioning is probably one of the most important things we can do for human health. We do need to start redesigning for natural ventilation. The picture on the upper left is the convention center in Cape Town, and probably a third of that entire building is just fresh air. Now, Cape Town is an extremely benign climate, but there are a lot of amazingly benign climates around the world, and we have forgotten the importance of spending time outdoors. The picture on the upper right is the High Line in New York City. I'm sure for any of you who have been to New York, you probably took a moment to go walk the High Line. It is such an amazing space, because it is one of the few spaces dedicated to outside air and nature in a highly dense urban place. Of course, air comes with problems. We're going to have to filter it, and we're going to have to deal with the humidity issues. There is research that really argues for why we need to increase the amount of outside air to make sure we deliver it effectively. These are the kinds of studies that our research team at Carnegie Mellon have been focusing on, is finding the medical and scientific research that links better buildings to better health outcomes. So this is a study of colds in offices, and what they found is that there was a 6.8% reduction in cold incidences in offices that had CO2 differential that were less than 100 parts per million lower than outside. In other words, the closer you can get your indoor CO2 to outdoor CO2, the better the indication of ventilation quality. And it reduces, in this case, colds. Another study that looked in Sweden that looked at asthma, they found a 69%, this is huge, 69% reduction in 2-year incidences of asthma among school children when they were given a displacement ventilation system, which is a far more effective delivery of fresh air with increased fresh air supply as compared to the ceiling-based VAV system that were more traditional. So classroom studies in Scandinavia have been consistently showing that the quality of the mechanical system and the delivery of fresh air is extremely important. 69% reduction in asthma in school children is a huge contribution to the health of the next generation. And then this study, which looks at productivity instead of health and air, there are a number of studies on productivity that show that there's a reduction in headaches, there's an improvement in creative and repetitive task performance, and we really need to be sure we introduce more fresh air per person in every building. The second big side or a parallel issue for me is to keep windows operable. Now, I know that there's a reason why certainly the schools in America have been slowly but surely replacing old windows with new sealed windows. And they do that because, number one, they're worried about security, they're worried about outdoor air quality, they're worried about outdoor noise. But in reality, the outdoor air quality is almost always better than the indoor air quality. And if it's not, we need to find a way to face our operable windows into courtyards and of course, reduce outdoor air pollution so that we can ensure that the air quality in buildings is as high as possible. There are some interesting research that's going on at Stanford University, trying to see if they can pick up particulates with screens so that we can keep the windows operable and put in the right type of screen. This is a nanotechnology where the screens themselves will actually pick up fine particulates and sometimes superfine particulates so that the air from the outside can in fact be admitted into the inside with less health concerns. And then you have to wash these screens on some basis to make it. Very interesting innovation that's beginning to make it more possible to just breathe the outdoor air, even in polluted cities. Again, the research is with us. The study in France by Preziosi found that there was a 57% reduction in absenteeism, a 16% reduction in doctor visits, and a 35% reduction in hospital length of stay in any of the female workers in office buildings that had windows that opened as compared to female workers in office buildings that had mechanical systems. And a lot of it has to do with the inborn concerns that could end up in a mechanical system that's inadequately maintained or badly filtered. But there's something about outside air that we haven't quite teased out that we need to re-embrace. The next issue is to eliminate toxic materials. And nothing could be more important after increasing the breathing air content is to make sure that what we put inside buildings are not toxic. There is, in Europe, a move to establish the precautionary principle, which basically says if we don't know whether it's healthy, we probably should not use it. If we know it's healthy, we can go ahead and use it. In America, with the Living Building Challenge, they've created something called the Red List, which is a series of products that they say, don't put these in buildings. They're fraught with health problems. They're endocrine disruptors. There is also environmental product declarations. So now we're starting to see labels on materials and products that declare that they've actually been tested to be sure that they're healthy. And this has to do with our respiratory system. It has to do with our eyes. It has to do with our skin. There's so many elements around us that actually diminish our health over time. The biggest ones being adhesives and sealants, paints and coatings, flooring materials, composite woods, because many composite woods are created with formaldehyde and creosote, fabrics because of the flame retardants that are put into fabrics. And then over time, we add pollutants. We have construction pollution, and we have non-green cleaning, we have cleaning pollution, and other types of waste management in buildings. The research is growing in this area of the impact of in this case, formaldehyde in composite wood products. A study done in Australia, they found that there was a 60% reduction in the prevalence of asthma among children in households that had formaldehyde-free composite wood products. So these are the products that are in your kitchen cupboards, in your couch frames, and we have choices when we go shopping for products to buy products that are composite wood made with formaldehyde or other toxic bonding agents, or to actually make sure we only buy products that are formaldehyde-free. And of course, sometimes they replace formaldehyde with other toxins. So what you're really looking for are environmental product declarations that basically say everything in this chair is a healthy product. And many of the manufacturers are beginning to pursue labels that show that the entire product is healthy and has been tested. And this is showing a 60% reduction in asthma for kids in households where the parents have chosen formaldehyde-free composite wood products, which is, again, a huge impact. A very different study on productivity and indoor air, the work of the Technical University of Denmark, one of the leading researchers on research groups on indoor air. Actually, the founder under Ole Fanger of the thermal comfort standards and the air quality standards that we all work with around the world. In this study, Wargocki identified that there was a 6.5% improvement in typing performance and almost a 50% reduction in sick building symptoms when the indoor air from old carpet was taken out of the airstream. It was a very unusual test where they introduced actually dirty carpet in the airstream, hidden from the occupants, and measured performance at a series of repetitive typing-related tasks, and found that there was actually a compromised performance, and actually the occupants of the space also sensed that the indoor air was compromised. They never found out exactly what toxin was in the old carpet. They only identified that when it was put in the airstream, it actually compromised health and performance. As I mentioned, the Living Building Challenge has established a red list. As you can imagine, manufacturers are not thrilled to have independent bodies like the Delos putting the WELL standard and Living Building Challenge creating a declare label, because it makes it tougher for them to manufacture products. But we have to be partners in making sure that the manufacturing community eliminates the toxic components and replaces them with things that are known to be healthy. Another group that's been extremely valuable to pushing a new generation of products is the Cradle to Cradle initiative. This is Bill McDonough and Michael Braungart's work. They have published the book Cradle to Cradle and now Upcycle, and they have created a public repository for high performance materials and products for all of us designers and engineers. And actually the design community, like Perkins and Will, one of the largest firms in the US, has created their own precautionary list of things that they are eliminating as a way of making sure that they have professional, they've done the best professional job, and they also have more competitiveness because people know that they care and are on top of what are healthy products. We are looking for things that don't irritate the skin, that they don't outgas toxins, that they don't degenerate into respirable fibers. All of you remember the asbestos generation and how we're actually now, we may be generating other forms of asbestos, which we have to be on top of. They don't create fire hazards, they don't foster mold or mildew, or transfer viral infections, and that they also have low embodied energy and the building, in the materials themselves. The third thing we need to do for indoor environments and health is starting to treat water as a design material. A lot of our health concerns, at least in areas which have a lot of rain, is mold. And areas with lots of air conditioning, because what happens when we super cool indoor environments and generate humidity is we often will get condensation on surfaces. And where there's condensation, you will find mold growth, especially if the air has adequate humidity to support mold generation. And mold has a significant correlation to both asthma and respiratory concerns. And so we really want to start treating water as a design material and recognize that humidity and rain are an integral part of our indoor design portfolio. This is Jack Spangler, who's one of the leading researchers at Harvard University in the School of Public Health. He spends quite a bit of time out in buildings trying to understand both what causes mold and and what impacts it has on human health. And here you can see what happens in a flood. Unfortunately, drywall, which we use extensively, is a pretty good mold supporter. It lives on the paper coating on drywall. It turns out that plaster, literally original clay plaster, is hydroscopic, whereas drywall is hydrophobic. And with clay plaster, a lot of this problem would not have happened. So maybe we need to rethink and re-embrace plaster. As I mentioned, mold has a direct correlation with allergies and asthma. It's also strongly correlated to infections and to cognitive development. So the work that's been going on in mold research around the world is making it clear that we have got to treat water as a design material. Here's just a stretch of research around the world on this. So it's a win-win for those of us in the design community if we start to treat rain and humidity as a positive thing. We start to collect and store our rain. We design vapor barriers independently of air barriers. We use rain screens. We increase moisture capacity by using hydroscopic materials. We specify porous paving, we design rain gardens, we design regenerative landscapes. All of this is actually a very rich arena for us in the design community if we start treating water as a design material. This is what you start to see. This is Portland on the top slide. Those are all rain gardens. So what they've done is turn their sidewalk into a huge repository for heavy rain. And in a deluge rain, and the reason for those little slots in the concrete is that without those slots, the water on that pavement would have just pooled on the pavement. But with those slots, it goes into this green bed, which is very deep and has significant design capacity to hold rainwater, and then slowly leach it back into the aquifer. Pervious paving versus impervious paving, all of this is well within our keeping. And at this point, cities in Europe are, in many cases, as much as 85% hard impervious surface. Between the roofs, the streets, the sidewalks, the parking lots, 85% of our cities are solid. And no wonder we're dealing with water challenges. The design community, and this is work of Herbert Dreiseidel, a German water designer, the leading water designer, truthfully, in the world, doing projects all over the world. He basically says we can design landscapes that will absolutely absorb a deluge and respond to drought. And this is just a side yard in a European housing community, and it's a play area for children. It's exploratory, and yet it can handle the worst that nature can throw at it. It's not easy to design for hydroscopic and moisture migration in walls. We have a real challenge, and I actually don't know how to teach wall design. It gets harder rather than easier, just trying to deal with where we should actually have the vent plane, and every climate is different. So we really have to spend time learning and testing different wall constructions for moisture migration. Rain screens are magical. If you haven't been designing with rain screens, I fundamentally believe that all future buildings should have a full layer that just deals with the brunt of the sun and the deluge rain, and then a vent space behind it. These are breathing walls. Renzo Piano has been one of the earliest adopters of rain screen. Now many architects are designing with rain screens, and projects all over the world use rain screen. They age beautifully because these facades breathe. They're not sealed or silicon caulked, and they can go through expansion, contraction. They can take the deluge, driving rain, and then they dry out, and the space behind it is completely separate, the actual wall of our space. Designing to minimize pests and to reduce microbes are sort of two things that go hand in hand. Minimizing pests, we could start by redesigning our front doors. To reduce, of course, we can do integrated pest management. Designing to reduce microbes has a lot to do with learning ways to clean and using hands-free design. Integrated pest management is an entire sort of menu of activities. Probably the most critical activity is catching things on their way in. And you actually need 3 layers in your front door. You need something that's a scraper that picks up, you know, heavy dirt, and you need a wiper that allows you to get water off of it, and you need a finisher. And so you're literally designing for 3 layers of cleanup on everyone's feet. And of course, many Asian cultures will have people take their shoes off as they enter the building, and it actually may be a critical human health is to have all of us taking our shoes off when we enter buildings. So not a very Western activity, or certainly not a very American activity, but something I think we're all beginning to realize is important. Boy, cleaning, there are so many toxic materials that are out there. Pest management, as well as things to clean surfaces. And in the US, we've got over 75% of households and businesses that use all kinds of toxins. And so again, Jack Spangler has been going into hospitals and taking everything out of their cleaning cupboard. In first place, he says a lot of the stuff in the cleaning cupboard is dated from 1994, so that means it's things that have been in that cupboard for 25 or 30 years, or even 87. And most of it is filled with some of the most toxic things, and this is in hospitals. And so he'll basically say, he'll take everything out of the cupboard, he'll take the 3 things in the entire suite of cleaning cans and bottles and say, these 3 you can use and everything else you have to dispose of appropriately. He says it's so problematic what we're doing in cleaning our buildings. And then we do bring other toxins into our buildings, and so we have to select our supplies carefully. In this case, children's art projects. What are we bringing into the school to let kids do healthy play? Manage the radiant environment is an issue that is more a cold climate problem, although I think because we are beginning to super air condition in hot climates, it's becoming a hot climate problem. And let me just briefly talk about the passive house. Although it needs to be absolutely climate appropriate, you should not be doing a European or Scandinavian passive house in Turkey. You should be dealing with the passive house solutions. If we can design airtight and well-insulated building envelopes, we can guarantee that the interior surfaces are at a uniform temperature and different from the outside surfaces. If we don't do that, what we end up with is what's called thermal bridging. And this is the Wave building in Chicago by Jeannie Gang. And I know for a fact that the original proposal by Jeannie Gang was to introduce thermal breaks, which is what you see on the bottom right from a company called Schick out of Germany. They basically take concrete that's exposed inside the building straight. You know, we always cantilever our floor slabs out to become balconies. Unfortunately, in that cantilever, we've created a thermal bridge. If I air condition my apartment and there's moisture in the apartment, I will end up having condensation on the inner walls. And so it's very important to break the indoor and the outdoor environment and make it airtight. And these thermal breaks are critical to doing that. Unfortunately, it was $1 million upcharge for the Wave building. The developer said, no, I'm not spending that $1 million. So they did not install thermal breaks. And so today, when you take a thermographic photograph of the Wave building, you will see thermal bridging rampant because all of those concrete waves are interior floor slabs that have been penetrated in the facade and taken into the outdoors. We really need to design to break thermal bridge. Treat daylight and sun as a material. Daylight and sunshine are sterilizers. They have significant circadian benefits. They also provide people with views and biophilic content. So daylight is a pretty magical thing. There is research on this, looking at length of stay in hospitals. If any of you end up in a hospital, please ask for an eastern or a southeastern room if possible, because it turns out that length of stay is dramatically reduced if people who are in the southeast versus ones who are in the northwest. The amount of pain medication is reduced. The nurse calls are reduced. Something about early morning sunshine is important to our recovery. The research on circadian light is growing. It turns out that the blue light that we're used to from daylight in the morning creates serotonin, which suppresses melatonin, and the red light that we're used to outdoors in the afternoon creates melatonin, which helps us to fall asleep. And if we don't get the blue and red content every day by spending time outdoors, you end up losing your sleep. And again, research is showing that if children are not exposed to early morning light, they will fall asleep 30 minutes to an hour later than their peers who do get exposed to early morning light, and then it will be hard to get them up the next morning. It will be hard for them to learn the next day. So there's some very good research, this by the Lighting Research Institute at RPI. And then lastly, biophilia. So once we start to embrace light and sunshine, we also will get, and natural ventilation, we will also get all the other contents that are very important. The sounds of nature, the sensory quality of nature, the community, listening to community and children playing, the ability to increase our access to the natural environment and creating good natural environments, which we can do if we do rain gardens and regenerative landscapes, so that kids can in fact run indoors and outdoors, and those of us who are now trapped with COVID inside can directly access and view beautiful outdoor spaces. There's good research that's growing on the value of biophilia. There are you can download the 14 patterns of biophilia from Terrapin, and they will give you the research. In this case, there's 6 to 7% faster average handling time for call center workers when they have seated views of nature as compared to those workers who are in cubicles without any view at all. And that's a lot, 6 to 7% straight increases in productivity for call centers. It actually will justify the thinner building and the access to windows for call center employees, even though they're not very well paid in the US. You would actually make money if you would design more humane environments for your call center workers. For children, it turns out that providing outdoor learning environments has a significant impact on their performance at standardized tests, and making those environments actually rich with diverse content, diverse natural content, makes them perform the best. So this is where I work, although not right now. In fact, it probably looks pretty clean because no one has been in this building for the last three months. This is the Intelligent Workplace at Carnegie Mellon University, where I have the privilege of working for the last 20-some years since I stepped down as head of the School of Architecture, or 15 years. And it's a wonderful daylit, naturally ventilated work environment that's very low energy and very high indoor quality. Thank you so much. Am I?
Vivian, thank you
Yes.
so much. That was most impressive. Oh my goodness. And you are right on time, right on time. That was breathtakingly beautiful, your presentation, and eye-opener. I'm sure we've got, by the way, now 119 participants, okay? We probably hit close to maybe over 150 because right now 120 actually, exactly. So this is a great turnout, and I'm sure everybody is delighted and excited about what you've been telling. And I want to make sure that I tell everybody to take their kids out to the daylight so they won't have any problems nighttime. And I will not have any problems nighttime because I've been spending a lot of time, even though I'm now pretty well covered with daylight and everything, but it's important to get out to the garden or to the daylight and waking up to the sunshine. Isn't that wonderful? it's like waking up to the beauty. That's great. And of course, selecting the materials, making material selection in technical part of the indoor. All of these things are very important. Thank you very much indeed for that fascinating presentation and discussion and sharing your wealth of wisdom with us. Now we have another great speaker coming up, but as a token of appreciation, I asked my ensemble, my quartet, to play a tune for you. Okay? Arkadaşlar orada mısınız? Profesör Vivian Loftus'a şöyle bir teşekkür etsek, sizin güzel ezgilerle, gönülden gelen, come on, with those beautiful tunes coming from your heart, you know, with all those emotions and feelings. Our way of thanking Professor Vivian Loftus. And by the way, our other two great speakers, we're not going to run out of them. I'm going to trade the time allocated to me for the sort of closing up remarks with you guys. You will have more than enough time. I'll make sure we will listen to those great presentations too. Haydi bakalım Emrullah'cığım, başlayalım. This is for you, Vivian.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My great quartet ensemble, sohbet ensemble. Thank you. Vivian, we're not going to let you go. I hope you enjoy the tune.
Yep, I'll stay on, but I'll turn off my sound.
We have a couple of questions for you, by the way. If you could, please. Emrullah'cığım ve tüm ekip, Emin'cim, Hüseyin'cim ve tabii Kaan'cığım çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bu Gülümcan'dı değil mi çaldığınız?
Gülümcan.
Harikaydı. The tune is called Gülümcan. We'll send you the YouTube version of it, okay? All right, one question is, from a gentleman, he's asking, can we learn your thoughts about UVC filtration HVAC systems? There's some thoughts about and so many recommendations about ultraviolet cleaning, you know?
Right. So Bill Banflath at the University of, or at Penn State University is the leader on UVC. He is getting a whole series of calls now because it looks like ultraviolet filtration is actually beginning to reduce the concerns about any microbial growth in mechanical air delivery. So as far as I'm concerned, UVC is a really good idea. Until proven otherwise, it's sunshine. We're basically saying we're going to blast our airstreams with sunshine. And especially if we're recirculating air in a building, UVC is a really good idea.
Very good. And one other thing, you know, as a result of what's been happening since the beginning of the COVID-19, what feature or what kind of features we say are waiting for us, we should expect in building architectural design to combat outbreaks like COVID-19?
Yeah, I was just in the process of typing an answer to this question. I see it in the Q&A. Okay, a couple of things. Everything that I talked about is going to be important because people are spending more time indoors. So we have to be very mindful of making sure there is a good fresh air delivery system. We have to reduce toxicity of materials, make sure there's no toxicity in the things we bring in. And we have to improve access to outdoor space because we need the opportunity to walk and play and meet with social distancing. To reduce infection transfer, we need to start with hands-free design. So all of our entry doors should be hands-free. Your sinks, all of your shared amenities should be hands-free because everything we touch collectively, elevator buttons, there's so many things that we touch a lot. And they're natural points of transfer, whether it's COVID-19 or another infection. The social distancing in the office may be achieved by a combination of fewer people in the office or people trading off which days they're in the office so that you can occupy every other desk. We are looking at ways in which you can plan circulation paths differently so that people aren't always bumping up against each other. And elevators are problematic because there's a lot of people in a closed space. So using the stairwells, putting hold opens on the stairs to encourage people to walk up and walk down so there's less people in an elevator at a time. There are a lot of things we can do to reduce especially for those who are not feeling 100%, reduce the amount of contact of direct sharing air and physical surfaces. It's a whole nother talk, right?
That's wonderful. Thank you. By the way, we have many of your students here. Your research.
Yeah, I see. I see.
And very good, actually.
A shout out to Zuhal and Ayhan.
University. Yes, Zuhal is here. Zeynep is here. Ayhan is here, joining us from New York. Right. And great people. Also some faculty from Carnegie Mellon. By the way, we have Carnegie Mellon University Alumni Association. I'm honored that I happen to be the president of the association. Everybody says hello to you and welcome you.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. There is another question about very fine particles, but I guess you've touched upon that. I don't know whether you want to say a few words on that. Starting with thank you. But question is about ultra-fine particles in indoor spaces. Aren't they very high and aren't they very harmful? That's the question.
They are. I mean, both PM 2.5 and PM 1s are a serious concern. A lot of that actually comes from outdoor, power and transportation. So if we can in any way reduce a shift to renewable energy, and try to stop combustion. Combustion is killing us, really. And I think a global agenda to try to slowly but surely eliminate combustion and shift to renewable electricity and electric cars and electric buildings will dramatically reduce our particulate problem.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Vivian.
Okay, a pleasure.
It was truly a pleasure. Thank you, thank you. Okay, now is the time for another great professor, to Heidi Salonen from Aalto University, another favorite university of mine. In fact, Aalto is really a very special place. If you ever go to, it's after Alvar Aalto, a famous Finnish architect. I remember I was involved, especially my great friend, Professor Euro Sotama of Helsinki University of Art and Design. Finns are really great. I mean, they were trying to bring 3 universities together, Helsinki University of Technology, Helsinki Business School, and Helsinki University of Art and Design. And they were going to come up with like University of Innovation. And I was kind of partly in touch with them during those times. This was like maybe 15 years back. And they ended up naming the university, instead of Innovation University, Aalto University. I think it fit perfectly. And my great friend, Professor Olli Seppänen, I went to him for help. I said, Olli, I need an expert in indoor air quality, indoor environment. And immediately we have Heidi Salonen. Heidi is actually is a wonderful lady. Heidi, you have a lot of impressive titles. You are a professor at Aalto University, but also you have a position, you have a post in the University of Queensland in Australia. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you graduated, you got your degrees from University of Kuopio. Is that the right spelling? Kuopio?
Yes. Kuopio.
Kuopio, and many awards and some great research. If I start talking about all your achievements, I might be eating off of your time. So thank you again for being with us. So screen is yours, please.
Thank you, Halil. So I will now shut down my video and share my screen. Can you see my video now, my screen?
Yes, we can, yes.
Okay. So the title of my presentation today is Impacts of Indoor Environment and Air Quality on Human Health and Performance. And this figure shows indoor environmental quality components published by P in 2009. And those components are sound quality, lighting quality, comfort quality, air quality, and odor quality. And later, 2019, Mujebu published this figure. So as we notice, in addition to air quality, sound quality, odor, lighting comfort, and thermal comfort, there are also factors like water quality, vibration, electromagnetic radiation, height, shine, microorganisms, and ergonomics. So all those factors affect indoor environment quality. And in my presentation, I concentrate on indoor air quality. And I list here some facts why indoor air quality is so important. So each day we consume on average 10,800 liters of air. And we spend about 90%, even more, of our time indoors. And it's published that air pollution causes globally 7 million deaths each year. So it's a huge amount. And indoor air is on average 2 to 5 times as polluted as outdoor air. In some houses, even 100 times as polluted. And I would like to start with this short video. Hopefully you can hear this voice.
In today's world, most people spend the majority of their time indoors. Whether at home, school, or at the office, some experts estimate many of us are indoors up to 90% of the time. This makes the quality of the air we breathe indoors all that much more important. In many homes and buildings, there are numerous potential pollutants that can cause health concerns or even result in various illnesses. They include the following. Mold. In buildings that have suffered water damage or elevated humidity levels, mold can begin to grow in as short as 24 to 48 hours. Mold can cause respiratory issues, allergies, infections, trigger asthma in some people, and expose people to mycotoxins. Bacteria. Many types of bacteria can be found on surfaces and even at times in the air we breathe, from Legionella to a growing number of drug-resistant superbugs such as MRSA and C. diff. Many pose potential health hazards. Allergens. Everything from pollen and mold spores to latex and dust mite allergens are frequent contributors to indoor air quality issues. Radon. In many parts of the country, radon can be found and is a potential invisible threat. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking and is odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Formaldehyde and other VOCs. Many building materials, furnishings, and products used indoors emit formaldehyde and other volatile organic compounds commonly referred to as VOCs. VOCs can be emitted as gases from certain solids or liquids, some of which may have short and long-term adverse health effects. Asbestos. Asbestos is a type of mineral fiber that was added to many building products in the past to strengthen them and to provide heat insulation and fire resistance. Exposure to asbestos fibers can cause various types of lung cancer, sometimes decades after exposure. Lead. Many buildings built before 1978 contain lead-based paints. As these materials age and degrade, or during renovation, remodeling, and demolition activities, they can become airborne and settle on surfaces which could put building occupants at risk for lead poisoning. These are just a few things to know about some of the more common.
Okay, so as that video shows, indoor air quality is a constantly changing interaction of a complex set of factors, and it's not easy to rank the different individual factors in terms of importance. But we know very well that the main causes of problems with indoor air quality are inadequate ventilation, mold and moisture damages, and material emissions. And it's well known also that the basis for good indoor air quality are properly functioning and effective ventilation and low emission building materials. And if you think about the sources of different contaminants, so there are several indoor sources, but also outdoor sources. And most common outdoor sources are traffic and combustion, and indoor sources, for example, people and their activities, tobacco smoke, building and furnishing materials, electronic equipment, cleaning products, and HVAC systems. And we can classify air pollutants different ways according to the health effects, according to their sources, according to their physical properties or chemical properties. So different ways to classify. And this table shows common physical, gaseous and particle factors that affect indoor air quality. So as you can see, there are several factors affecting air quality. And when we think about health impacts of indoor air pollution exposure, children are a particularly vulnerable subgroup because they breathe more air than adults relative to their body size and have greater metabolic activities. And there are several publications publishing those studies. And this figure by Salthammer et al. 2016 shows the factors and linkages with possible impact on the indoor air quality in classrooms. And this gray area shows the primary factors affecting the exposure. And those are building characteristics, children's mobility, thermal comfort, and air pollution sources. And this figure shows also the other linkages and factors, but those are the main. And when we think about indoor air pollution and health effects from indoor air pollutants may be experienced soon after the exposure or even years later. And immediate health effects such as irritation of the eyes, nose and throat, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, show up very shortly after a single exposure or repeated exposures to a pollutant. And usually those are short-term and treatable, and sometimes the treatment is simply eliminating the person's exposure to the source of the pollution. And soon after exposure to some indoor air pollutants, symptoms of some diseases, such as asthma, may show up, be aggravated or worsened. And long-term effects such as respiratory diseases, heart disease, and cancer may show up either years after exposure has occurred, only after long or repeated periods of exposure, and can be severely debilitating or even fatal. And this figure shows reported work environment complaints and reported symptoms among office workers. And those complaints about stuffy, bad air, dry air, and an increased frequency of general symptoms such as feeling heavy headache, fatigue, and headache point to ventilation problems. And when we check these figures, symptoms and work environment complaints about unpleasant smell, stuffy, bad air, and increased frequency of symptoms from the mucous membranes, such as irritated, stuffy or runny nose, itching, burning, or irritation of the eyes, or hoarse, dry throat, point to pollution into indoor air. And it should be noted that it's not possible to decide if gases or particles are involved, but in such situation when the figure about symptoms and work environment complaints shows like this, it's advisable to search for moisture problems. And because of the time, we are not going to check this video, but you can have my slides and you can check this video if you are interested. This United States Environmental Protection Agency published indoor air quality and indoor pollution video. It's short video, so it's easy to check. And this video shows the sick building syndrome. I'm not going to show this, but you can check. There is a link. You can check this later. This figure shows examples of how climate change may affect indoor environments and health. And on the left side, you see these outdoor environment conditions that increase with climate change. And those are heat waves, hurricanes, extreme precipitation, sea level rise, flooding, wildfires, outdoor air particles, ozone, and pollens. And you can see the influences on indoor environment. So those are periods of high temperature, dampness, and mold, periods with high concentrations of airborne particles, higher indoor ozone, and higher indoor pollen allergens. And this right side shows the potential consequences for comfort and health. So as you can see, there are several consequences for our comfort and health. And climate change adaptation means more air conditioning, which may cause improved thermal comfort and increases and also decreases in respiratory health effects. And climate change mitigation means more building energy efficiency, and that may cause improved thermal comfort, increases and decreases in respiratory health effects, sick building symptoms, chronic health effects. And as an example about exposure to ozone, I will show some results of our quite recent study, human exposure to ozone in school and office indoor environments. So ozone is formed by reactions between nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds with short atmospheric lifetimes in the presence of sunlight. And outdoor air is the most common source of ozone in indoor air. But there are also indoor sources. Those are, for example, air purifiers, laser printers, and photocopies. And health effects are daily daily exposure to high levels of ozone may cause DNA damage. Long-term exposure to higher concentrations of ozone may be linked to permanent lung damage. And ozone has also been associated with school absenteeism due to several other things. And it has been estimated that 10 microgram per cubic meter increase in 1 hour maximum ozone leads to a grand mean of a 0.21% increase in mortality. And this figure shows the observed concentrations of ozone in 2015. So because outdoor air is the main source of indoor air ozone, then it's important also to know about outdoor air ozone concentration. And as we can see, the over 140 microgram per cubic meter levels is very commonly found in Southern Europe, especially in Northern Italy. And this figure shows statistical values of ozone in school settings. And as we can see from this figure, the medium values is quite good level, but there are several cases where the WHO's ozone guideline value is exceeded, and also in office settings. And when we think about means to reduce the concentration of indoor ozone and its oxidation products, those are the use of suitable filters, keeping windows and doors closed when concentration of ambient ozone is high, the use of suitable building or decorative material coatings for passive reduction of ozone, and reducing the use of ozone-releasing devices, appliances, and products with ozone reacting constituents. And this is quite good EPA's indoor air quality tools for schools preventive maintenance guidance. So if you are interested, you can check this link and read this book. It's very good publication. And quickly something about my previous and ongoing research project within this indoor air quality field. So I did my own doctoral thesis about indoor air contaminants in office buildings 2009, and it include things about fungi and bacteria, common VOCs and formaldehyde in Finnish office buildings, airborne concentration of volatile organic compounds, formaldehyde and ammonia in Finnish office buildings, and then something about man-made vitreous fibers in office buildings in Helsinki area. And after my thesis, I moved with my family to Australia, and there was that catastrophic flood just when I arrived there, and my first project was to study the flooded houses and the health effects of that flood to occupants. We also did this assessment of exposure to bioaerosols in the school environment as a function of school characteristics after that flood. And we also did this, the effect of indoor environment in healthcare areas in healing and reviving people. And there is 2 publications listed here. So if you are interested to this topic, you can check those papers. And when I started in autumn 2015, after that we have worked with those listed projects. So toxic PM about mechanisms for moisture damage structures to indoor air, an EURA project, the effect of building material emissions on measured and perceived indoor air quality in new public buildings, the smart and clean new methods to evaluate indoor air quality in school buildings, indoor air police, detection and prevention of indoor air quality problems, and this HEMOHES healing and modular healthcare facilities. This NERO is going on at this moment, cost reduction of new nearly zero energy wooden buildings in the northern climatic conditions, and this CP impact of indoor cleaning chemicals and biocides on the quality of indoor air in school and daycare buildings. And actually today we received Finnish Academy money for our cleaning chemical project. So we will continue this CIPI project. And we received 4 years financing for that project. So now we can do a lot of things during next few years. And other just started projects are this LIGU project, Indoor Air and Indoor Environment Quality in Sport Facilities and Possible Effects on Employee Wellbeing and Health. And this Ensihalli project, Energy Efficient Swimming Pool Facilities with High Indoor Environment Quality. And next week, this is information about defense. So one of my doctoral students, Esa Halmetoja, will have defense next week. So if you are interested about this topic, improving perceived indoor condition using building information models and field data, you can participate in this remote defense. So there is Zoom link you can join, and you are free to join this, and that thesis is also already available in internet. And some upcoming defenses will be those by Emanuela Castagnoli, Famila Vornanen-Vinkvist, Katja Tähtinen, Kati Järvi, and Mehdi Taipnia. And those defenses will be on August and on September. So if you are interested, you can follow Aalto University webpage. There will be information about those defenses, and I think most of those will be remote defenses. And there are some papers, if you are interested about this topic, you can check those papers later, so you can find the titles and the list of the authors, so it's easy find those from internet. So there are recently published papers within this field. And those are our international cooperation organizations. And that's all what I like to say. So thank you for your attention.
Heidi, we thank you very much. It was wonderful and very exciting, and great. I'm just excited and delighted that we have such great speakers here. Thank you very much. We have a question, Heidi.
Yes.
And that's about, the gentleman is asking about ozone cleansing. He's saying he's been hearing a lot about ozone cleansing in the indoor air. What do you think about this?
Ozone can be a problem in some southern Europe area especially, but also in some buildings having, for example, several copy machines, for example, among the people. So if there is copy machines, there should be in separate room for those.
I see. And another question is, should we discuss the change of fresh air quantities per person? Per person or per meter squared after COVID?
I think it's one good means to reduce the epidemic. But we need more studies. There is quite pilot studies already, but we need more studies about how it spread. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much. Thank you. Anyway, you know, there's also questions about whether our participants can reach out to your presentations, and I can tell that we record our webinars, and we will talk to our presenters, our speakers, and if they agree, if they allow us, then we will share them with you for sure. Okay. Thank you. Now,
yeah.
Our musicians, they have to live there because of, again, COVID. They're in a very special studio, and we've extended the limits there. So we have a thank you tune to you, and Anu, it will be a thank you in advance tune for you. So they're gonna play one tune, a famous composer, Tamburi Cemil Bey, and can we do Tamburi Cemil Bey's Çeçen Kızı, Circassian Lady? Emrullah'cığım. Aycan Bey, beni duyuyor mu müzisyenler?
Evet.
Ha,
Duyuyorlar
haydi o
elbette.
zaman Tamburu Cemil Bey'den bir Çeçen kızı dinleyelim. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz bu arada müzisyenler. We really thank our musicians. I know
Halil Bey, before we start, Professor, can you please stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And
thank you very much. Abdullah, Hüseyin, Emin ve Kaan. Çok teşekkürler. Çok teşekkürler.
thank you.
Thank you. Biliyorum, I know you have to leave. Biliyorum ayrılmak zorundasınız. O bulunduğunuz yerdeki kurallardan dolayı. Sağ olun, var olun. Her şey gönlünüzce olsun. Her gününüz böyle müzikli saniyelerle, dakikalarla dolsun ki bizler de neşe bulalım. Sağ olun, var olun. Çok teşekkürler. Gönül kapılarımızı açtınız ve bizler de köprüleri kurduk o gönül kapılarını açtıktan sonra, gönüller arasında. Sağ olun. They've opened actually our heart, soul gates, doors, and I hope that we've all built bridges between those open doors. Thank you. Teşekkürler. Anyway, now we have another great speaker, and this time it's a lovely lady from Halton, Anu Saxen. She comes with like over 20 years of experience in Halton, and Halton has now a new office and new precautions and new preparations, you know, post-COVID time. Going back to office, Anu actually studied in Jyväskylä University, and Jyväskylä is that the right pronunciation, Anu?
Yes, that's perfect. Jyväskylä, yes.
Is the heart of education in Finland, and she also attended IMD Business School. And going back to school, going back to new Halton offices. Let's see what you've got to say. And again, your thank you was in advance because the musicians had to leave, as I told you, all right? So there you go. Screen is yours, Anu, please.
Thank you so much, Halil, and great pleasure to be with all of you. So my intention was to kind of primarily talk about the how to design workplaces that enhance well-being, and kind of as using as a case study our new headquarter office in Helsinki, Finland. But as we did some internal research on safe return to offices, so I have included that to the material as well, and we'll be spending most of the time with that material, as it's very kind of topical at the moment. So this is completely kind of a practical view what we have done as a company, what we in our own premises, but naturally for the workplace design, also something that what we recommend to our clients. So let me start by kind of saying that where we come from. So our mission is to enable well-being indoors. I'm also personally very passionate about well-being matters. And when we started to design the new headquarter building for us and the headquarters, so we used as a motto the one that we always use when also designing to our clients. So buildings are for people, and therefore they should provide good, comfortable, healthy, and safe environment for people to work in. So with that idea in mind, we used as a framework for the design the Well Building Standard version 2, what Vivian already mentioned in her presentation. What is good about that is it's a very holistic concept. So it covers different aspects of well-being, from elements like movement, how to encourage that people move, how to encourage that people eat healthy, drink enough water, and so on. So there's different types of elements, but also elements that are related to the indoor environment. I will cover mostly those matters. So, and a little bit present what we did, briefly what we did in the project. So for air side, so it's really important that we maintain high indoor air quality from design to construction practices, and then to how we use the building and how we maintain it. In terms of light, so one of our guiding principles, like in WELL, has been the preservation of human circadian rhythm. So utilizing lights that help to kind of providing the blue light in the mornings, and then towards the afternoon we go more red, the light becomes, so that the human rhythm stays, and people have no problems of or have less problems of for instance sleep disorders. Thermal comfort, definitely there. So it's a matter that you can, or in our project, can be impacted very much by the space program and kind of comfort zoning in the premises, but also by giving the users control over the conditions. Thermal comfort, so the temperature, is one of the most complained areas by building users, and that's why it's also affecting productivity, as we heard. So very important topic to focus in. Then sound environment, so the acoustic environment, also an area that impacts productivity with a great deal and can be impacted by the material choices, the space design, for instance, like we are utilizing a activity-based office, so that also helps that. In addition, so we have paid great focus on material choices to decrease or minimize the material harmful material emissions, and then also utilize biophilic design, so bringing natural elements to the office environment, because like according to the studies, even 15 minutes in the woods or in the forests reduces the stress level. So we have wanted to bring the natural nature to the office by utilizing green walls, natural colors, shapes and forms. So that's the framework. So here are the design objectives from the indoor environment point of view. So we have a activity-based office, as I mentioned. So we have designed it to different zoning to suit the different tasks people have. So we have free seating arrangement there, and you can change the place of work based on your task. Naturally, as an indoor climate company, so high level of indoor climate, we are applying fresh air amounts that are 3 times the minimum level specified in international standards. Also utilizing there the demand-based ventilation system, so we are able to provide the good conditions to spaces where people are, and then save on spaces where there's no occupants. And we have wanted to bring the kind of enable a smooth process or kind of workflow in offices through a building user interface, where people also see the conditions. I will show in the next slide how it actually looks like. So the base of the whole system is actually a demand-based system, and to which we have then linked this kind of a building user interface. So this is there people can see actually quite easily the what desks are in kind of available, what rooms are available, what are the conditions, and so on. And this is actually proven to be fairly useful now in when doing this safe return guidance, as we can guide people what spaces are available and what routes to take. So going to the safe return to offices, and this is, I want to share you some interesting kind of risk analysis, what we have done and related to the guidance we've given in-house. And this is mostly from ventilation perspective. So according to scientific community, so the indirect airborne infection cannot be ruled out. So there's a risk for infections transmitted or air transfer of emissions. So from our perspective, we wanted to be a responsible employer and utilize our own knowledge and expertise to reduce the risk of our own employees being infected. And what are the types of exposure to viruses or the disease? So we have the direct exposure. So when people are coughing, sneezing, talking, singing, so there's droplets and aerosols that are transmitted to the other people's breathing zone and then inhaled. Then we have the indirect airborne exposure. So where the aerosols, the very small ones, are hovering in the air and then inhaled by other persons. The ventilation reduces the amount of viruses in the air, so it kind of dilutes the air. So what can be done, or how can ventilation reduce the risk of infection? And here I show some measurements and studies, what risk analysis, what we've done. So for direct exposure, so the key thing is to assess the situation where there's a risk for direct exposure, even if we apply the safety distance of 2 meters. Then we verify the situations with, in our case, with smoke tests, and then do necessary changes. Like in our case, we did plex dividers in the meeting room tables, air curtains can be also done, and then different seating arrangements. In indirect airborne exposure, so here we have done also risk analysis of situations where an infected person is in a space, and what is the risk then with different ventilation amounts using Wiles-Riley method. Then we kind of have investigated improvements in ventilation and then implement the measures. If in the case the ventilation system is not efficient enough, so local air purifiers can also be then utilized to help out. Here's just briefly about the Wiles-Riley model. So it basically tells that the increasing ventilation, the risk of infection is reduced in a space. So let's look at the direct exposure cases first. So we have a conference room, and with this analysis we defined that what's a good seating arrangements. Do we need any extra physical barriers for the rooms? Let me show you a couple of videos. So on this. So this is a case where there's no plexi divider, and what you can see on the kind of how the air moves from the person to the other side. By the way, this is actually on the picture on the right side. So we have Kim Hagström, who has made these materials with Tarja Takki for us. So what I'm now presenting. So you can see that it travels quite freely to the other side. Then we have a case where we have a plexi divider in the meeting room to stop the direct exposure. So now you can see that even the person is kind of breathing a little bit more heavily. So the airflow is not coming to the other side. So, and we did the same analysis for open space, kind of table group of 8 persons, and noticed that with the same analysis that actually the seating arrangement has to be diagonal or directly kind of back to back to be able to minimize the risk for direct exposure. So to summarize, so direct exposure is there's an increased risk for infection, and based on that analysis, so we have applied some means like these plexi dividers and safety distance, diagonal seating in the rooms and also in open plan office. Then about indirect airborne exposure. So I have 3 cases here, entire office level. Then I have this open space and a meeting room. So here we basically have 2 cases of normal occupancy, and and 2 cases of reduced occupancy. And as you can see with the, this minimum ventilation case is a case where the ventilation is according to the international standards. We have used the Wales-Riley there and assumed a 7.5-hour working day. And what is the probability of being infected if there is on a 60-person office, 1 person who is infected? So it's about 18%. What we can do that we can dramatically reduce with normal occupancy case, the risk for infection by utilizing, like in our own office case, so higher fresh air amounts, and even go down with kind of applying the safe return, so having less people to 40 in the office, and then when applying and further reducing the risk for infection by adding the air purification. I quickly show also this kind of just to show that how the purifiers are utilized in our own office. They are utilized for keeping the aisles, mainly the aisles clean. So in our office for purifiers, so you can see that it kind of based on the lights here, that it nicely creates a kind of a fresh air area, and also impacts this open plan office well. Then an open space case, the similar thing. So 2 cases with normal occupancy and 2 with reduced occupancy. And here we can see that into this table group of actually 4 or 8 persons in a normal occupancy mode. So the risk for infection is really high based on this Wales-Riley risk assessment. It's lowered when we have kind of Halton own office, and further lowered by applying this safe return. So having half of the employees present, and further reduced by applying these local purifiers. And then the last case, basically the scenario of a meeting room where we have, you can see the meeting room on the top right corner. So originally a 12-person meeting room with normal occupancy, the risk of being infected is really high, over 90% in case where there's 2 are spreading the infection. It's considerably lower with our in Halton office case with higher air volumes, and further reduced also here when kind of applying the safe returns on having half of the employees present in the office. Also kind of in our case, as we are utilizing a demand-based system, so we can utilize maximum airflows in the meeting room when there's people, so we can further reduce the risk. So just to summarize that as well, so the risk of indirect exposure cannot be ruled out, and it's good to, we have utilized this risk analysis to assess really the risk. The risk cannot be completely eliminated, but we can certainly affect it very much by these ventilation measures. And naturally, it's good for well-being of people as also not only kind of a risk-reducing measure. So, kind of for the participants of the seminar, I would like just for your consideration that how should we actually define what is an acceptable infection risk in workplaces? Should there be such a rule, and then do necessary measures with ventilation? And then to conclude, what kind of the practical arrangements based on this risk analysis, what we've done to enable safe return to offices is that we have in open plan in the whole office, basically in open spaces, but also in meeting rooms, we have halved the maximum number of people, applied diagonal seating. We are enhancing ventilation, in meeting rooms during office hours when there's people in the rooms, and between meetings we are flushing the rooms with air. So there's a 15-minute period that the space cannot be utilized. There's guests are welcome to meeting rooms, and they are equipped with this kind of physical plexi dividers. And also we do kind of take into account that in social kitchen area that people, one person per table group is the allowance. So this is kind of experiences from Halton and designing kind of workplaces that enhance well-being and safety. So as a kind of to summarize, so I believe that when we applied the well criteria in designing the space, so pretty much we had very relatively easy tasks then to actually develop very good means for safe return, as the base was there, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anu. I did it again. Thank you very much again for
thank you so much
and real life sort of happenings over there. And we have one question, and that is, can you give figures for airflow rates? You said that 3 times than standard values.
Actually, I could provide the whole set with technical details to you. So we are basically utilizing the well criteria in the office for
Anu, this is Tarja.
Yes, Tarja.
I saw the question and I tried to remember what was the liters per second per person. I think we used 12 liters per second in the Halton enhanced office. 10 or 12, but the minimum standard, international standard, is between 2 and 3 liters per second per person. And usually it's based on the square meters or square footage.
Yeah, this is
and not per person like it really should be.
Thank you for answering that. Okay, thank you. Anyway, we are very limited with time now. We are at the sort of closing remarks. Tarja, would you like to add anything else?
Well, what I would like to say is that how wonderful information and how knowledgeable people were presenting in this webinar. If we put together all these 3, it's wonderful. And both professors had very high quality presentations that, if they were even further combined, could be even better. Of course, this mechanical ventilation is very much used here in the Northern Europe, as the natural ventilation doesn't really work here. But then the natural ventilation could be very good in some spaces, especially when it's somehow kind of a hybrid system with some mechanical devices, also making sure that there is enough fresh air and enough air movement. But yes, I really love this. Hey, thank you, Halil, for you are such a quick entrepreneur putting together this kind of a webinar, and we should have had even more people here listening to this wonderful content.
We had I'm sure in and out we had over 150.
Yes.
Statistics, the data analytics.
Yes.
But we thank you very much, and every panelist, participants, speakers, and everybody who actually attended our webinar. And I want to thank wholeheartedly to everyone who was involved in DEİK, especially Aycan Damalı, our coordinator, and our overall regional coordinator, Tuna, and our president, Mr. Nair Olpak. I'm sure he would have been here had he not have a board meeting somewhere else. He's been very helpful and supportive of us. And I must say, our interpreters, they are the invisible heroes, these kind of events. And I usually end up with again, a few words from Rumi again. This time, this is a very special poem, and I know our interpreters have the Turkish version of it, but I have my invisible heroes too. I must admit, my wife has been helping me a lot. This has been our third webinar since COVID started. The first one was on cybersecurity, working remotely. Second one, as most of you know, we hosted Esko Aho. He talked on education, technology, innovation, and he shared his views with us. The former Prime Minister of Finland, a wonderful guy, and also I have also a very special invisible hero who's been helping me since I started these activities, and that's my dear daughter Melis. She is the director of our company in Techno. Melis, are you around? Anyway, while I'm reciting this poem, maybe you want to say, because I wanted to thank you. She's been a great help. Melis Kulluk, and you know most of our friends. Yeah, and this is from Rumi again. It's called Just Do It. Who can find trace of you? There isn't even a bit of dust from your track. Who could find your home? You have no home. How can I praise you? What can I say about you? Home is the only form in the sea of meaning. A great unseen town lies just behind that curtain. Our world is nothing compared to that. Don't lower yourself. Don't knock on every door. You yourself, use yourself. You are what you're looking for. Oh, heart, raise your tent up to the sky. Don't say I can't. Don't say I can't. Just do it. Just do it. So let's just do it for a healthy environment, for healthy indoors. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And see you soon. Thank you. All the best and greetings from our lovely city of Istanbul. Thank you. Bye-bye now.